Hey, hey, hey. Hey, everyone. Happy Sunday. I'm super excited. You go, girl. About this live today. I've actually been waiting a few months to do this interview, so I'm happy that I'm finally able to do it, even with COVID going on. Thank you guys for tuning in every Sunday. Even though it's been a few weeks, I'm very excited to be back. And I'm glad that I have such a good person that I'm interviewing today, like every week. Marcus Goodwin, he will be a part of my show today. So if you don't live in the DC area or Maryland area, I'm sorry. But if you do, I'm sure you've seen his signs everywhere in DC. You can't drive anywhere without seeing it. So I'm super excited to have Marcus on my show today. But before we really go into things, I just want to say that this month is 6 months that I've been doing the Gift of Gab. I came up with this concept back in January, and I released my first video in February. So it's been 6 months since I started doing the Gift of Gab, and I don't know. I've just been nervous thinking about it because I can't believe it's only been 6 months. I feel like I've been doing this for so much longer. But I'm super thankful. I'm thankful of all the guests that I'm able to interview and all the people, who tune in and care about, the things that I want to talk about. So, thank you for everyone that's been supporting me. Thank you to my family. Thank you to my friends. It has been a long 6 months of doing the Gift of Gab, but I'm super thankful and more to come. Way more. If you watch my show, if you've been watching it from the beginning, I don't have just one topic that I stick to. And I love that about myself and about my show. I love that I like to look at different things and experience different things and empathize with different types of people. So I'm super excited. This is my first political interview, so don't try and jump on me too much. Hopefully my followers have the same viewpoints that I do, so it won't be anything too crazy. And if not, I hope that I can teach someone something or open their eyes to something that maybe they weren't, knowledgeable about. So yeah, I'm going to get started on this interview with Marcus. But again, it's been 6 long months doing the Gift of Gab. So I'm excited. Thank you guys for tuning in. I see you, Marcus. Okay. And yes, I'm interviewing my... Hey!
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, how are you today?
Good. How's the organization here? I'm trying to figure this out.
You're fine. You can take a moment if need be. I'm sure you've had a long weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into that too. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Started the morning out, went to DuPont Circle and the Palisades. They both got
Wow.
market today, so I was out there meeting with people.
Of course.
And you got a pound of meet the people where they are.
Yeah.
So that's what.
I love that. Yeah, I saw that we were both at the march on Friday.
Yep.
Yeah, and that honestly, I was crying like when I was there. I had a moment where I really just looked around and I'm like, I can't believe we're here. Well, not me physically here again, but we're here, fighting for the same thing that we've been fighting for years. But I also feel super proud that I'm able to be a part of history, and I'm able to have a platform to speak with people and, maybe them hear, listen, and learn something new. So the march was very inspiring.
Absolutely.
I didn't get to actually march because I almost passed out from heat exhaustion.
Oh, I was with you. I was there
Yeah.
9 a.m. We met with a big group of people. It was like an HBCU party in
Wow.
I started out, I delivered some words, which were like the last thing that I posted on social media, and really
Yeah.
talked about the gravity of the moment. John Lewis, who recently passed, was the last living person who spoke at the march in 1957. 57 years ago in 63. So it's really powerful and impactful to know that we're the continuation of that legacy of our ancestors.
Wow, that's crazy. Did you get to meet Al Sharpton?
Yep.
Wow,
And
okay.
so many people there, but got to shake his hand as he was moving about, getting ready. He was really like master of ceremony and calling up people. So I've got some
Yeah.
real good. of him with his agenda list of everyone who was speaking.
Hmm. I actually got to meet him at the Congressional Black Caucus, the annual legislative conference, that comes to DC
Yep.
every year. I got to meet him a few years ago. He looked at me and he shook my hand, and I'm just like, I don't think I ever am going to wash my hands again. But then COVID happened, and now I have to.
Yeah.
But that's good.
Any past couple months, so that's kind of a result of
So
what we're
how you
facing.
been dealing with COVID over these last few months? I know we were initially going to have an interview months and months ago. I still have a lot of footage of you shaking hands with people too. But how has COVID been with everything that you have going on and working in the community?
It's rapidly transformed it, but I think for us being young and dynamic and savvy, it's been a good transition because I'm up against that are old school retail politicians. And while I like to shake people's hand, meet them, listen to their issues, formulate ways to solve it, I can lean on digital media and marketing in a way that
Mm,
other people can't, to make impressions on
yeah,
our social media, on television media, on radio, and even our mail. We're just
yeah.
hyper targeted on where the votes are and how to get young people out and how to get them registered to vote. And you're looking at me in my office now because I got the
Yeah.
little light like everybody has.
Yeah. I actually don't have an office, so I'm sitting in front of my wardrobe, but you know what? We're going to work with it.
I'm pathetic. I think it works.
Yeah, it
It's
definitely
very,
does. So I actually have a lot of questions for you, but I'm kind of just gonna, flow things out. So the first thing I really want to get into is, what is your background and how did you get into politics? Because I read your website and I was able to gather a lot of information from you about you from there. But,
yeah.
if you could explain a little bit about yourself and how you got into politics.
Yeah, I'm a DC native. I'm the fifth of 8 kids in my family. I grew up in the Columbia Heights community predominantly, although, we had a couple other houses around that we moved around when I was young, but that's really what I call home.
Mm,
My mom still lives in that same house I grew up in. She's a DC public school teacher. I started out in the public schools and got an opportunity, a scholarship to attend private schools for high school. So it was a formative experience for me. I learned a lot about the different ways that people are capitalized, and I learned what growing up and being born on third base was. And
mm,
that we got a generational curse to break on the side of town that I grew up in, and
yeah.
a community that I grew up in. And I've focused my life on doing that. And I've been professionally working in affordable housing for the past
Okay.
9 years. I finished college, and
Mm,
it's a great blessing to me learn how to make home for people that are working class, low or middle wage earners. So having not been a career politician or a policy person or a lobbyist, I'm coming at it focused on putting people above politics. And that's really where I think we can make a transformative change for families and communities that are east of the Anacostia River.
mm. I actually have a question right here. It says, what does being born on third base mean?
Yeah, it's people that, being scoring a home run in baseball terms is obviously the greatest thing you can do. So being
Right.
born on is that are born rich or born into families with a lot of access.
Oh,
And, I began to see a lot of people who were born like that, unlike people like me. So,
like the
it,
current orange clown in the office
the
right now.
people like the orange clown, but, certainly I wouldn't say anyone that I met growing up was as deplorable or as detestable or as
Mm,
in our
okay. I didn't know that about you. I knew that you were a DC native. I didn't know that your mom was a DC public school teacher.
day. Yeah,
Is she still teaching or is she retired?
she's still teaching, Miss Goodwin.
Wow. Hey, Miss Goodwin.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
definitely
so
not.
so I wanted to ask you, I think, especially with, I'll say we're in the same generation, I guess, and it seems like every time it's that time to vote every 4 years, it seems like people say, this is the biggest election of your lifetime. And I do believe that. My first time voting, I'm very thankful. I had a good experience. I voted for Obama in his second term. And I'm very
Yep.
proud that, my family influenced me to be able to vote and understand, what it meant with my vote. So ever since I voted for the first time, it's been, you know, this itch that I have where I'm like, I'm just so excited to be able to voice my opinion. And
Yep.
I wanted to ask you, you know, what was your first time voting like, and how was that experience, and who'd you vote for?
So when I was 18, it was September 2008. So I got to vote
Okay.
for Obama general election,
Hey,
and that was the uh, you know, 2008.
2008. I'm like, wow, we're really young.
Yeah. So yeah, I was 18 years old and I was a rising sophomore. So I could actually vote. I voted for him in the primary when I was 18. By the general election, I was 19. So yeah,
Cool. Okay.
and it was exciting. I mean,
Yeah.
crazy. On campus, I remember it was like 86% of students had voted for Obama.
Wow.
He brought out in a historic way, and he really tapped into the energy of the moment. So that's
Yeah, he really did.
that energy. So that's what we've been focused on.
And that's good, you know, that you're able to have that experience. I feel like, you know, nowadays it does seem pretty dire when people have to go out and vote, because it's like, wow, you know, we're dealing with a certain situation right now. And I think that it's really important that people do understand the significance of what could happen if you don't vote right now. What could happen and how we could be stuck with someone for another 4 years.
Yep.
So, what would you say is so significant about voting locally and national versus voting, or voting locally and voting nationally?
Yeah, the biggest thing is that your everyday issues are based on the local people who are charged with solving them. Your education issues, funding for education, housing issues, policy and funding for affordable housing, gap financing, commercial
Mm,
development, zoning laws. Um, when you talk about economic development and small business, wage and labor laws, these are all
okay.
determined level. And frankly, if you look at your life as a whole, it has a bigger impact than who's representing you on a national level, in terms of day to day interactions. So I know it's critically important for people to just be locked in and engaged, knowing who their local representatives are. Because
Hmm.
if you have a problem with the status of your streets or the development that's going up that isn't equitable or isn't inclusive of the community, it's your local representatives who are going to be able to step up and create change with our local government structure. And in DC, it's even more centralized than anywhere else. We don't have county government, we don't have state government.
Yeah.
All we have is our council and our mayor. So it's like state,
Wow. Okay.
city, all wrapped up in one.
See, as someone who, I'm sorry, mom, but I failed government freshman year in high school. Um, I've always been a good writer, but I haven't necessarily been the best when it comes to government and things. So I make it my mission to educate myself. So I
Yep.
didn't know that about DC. And that's actually one of my questions was, you know, what is the breakdown of the local structure for people that are able to run or be elected for office? So in DC, you're saying it's the DC Council and then mayor.
Yeah, we have a mayor who's effectively our governor locally
Right.
and runs and oversees federal funding and all of our government agencies in the city.
Mhm.
And our council, which has one chairman and then 12 other members uh, that have different geographic boundaries. I'm running for an at-large seat, so that means that I'm not bounded geographically. Anyone anywhere in the city, I'll be on their ballot November 3rd. They can vote for me. But
Oh, okay.
that have different geographic boundaries, and they're ward council members, and then 4 at-large, chairman who's also at-large. So 13 people. So I mean, in most states, you have your state house, your
Right.
state, uh, have your city council, your may. We have it all wrapped up into one. So it's very centralized, very direct, and pretty much the council and the mayor govern every legal avenue or facet of your life.
Hmm. So where does that lead you when it comes to like, you know, I'm getting more into your business, but you know, for your political career. So can you serve on this, you know, chair? Can you serve on this for like several terms, or is it something where it's kind of one and done and then you kind of move on to something else?
Yeah, I don't know if you've heard of Marion Barry being called the mayor for life. He was called that because
Yeah.
he served 4 terms as mayor of DC. We don't have term limits in DC. We had someone who had been in office for 29 years, Jack. who resigned from the council earlier this year. So
Wow. That's
we
very informative.
some states for different, you know, political bodies have term limits, but in the district, we think that the people determine your term limit, meaning
Hmm.
when the people vote you out, that's when your term limit's up or when you resign.
I think I like that more.
Yeah, it's but also there isn't perfect information, so
Right.
the incumbents will win because people know them better than they know people running against,
Mhm.
not necessarily because they're the best candidate.
That's true. Okay. See, I like how you switch that. um, so getting to your platform, as I was reading on your site, of course, you know, you said you work in housing. But I think one of the main things that you wanted to focus on was social inequality. Do you want to expound on that a little bit and how, you know, you plan on helping the community or at least the DC with the social, you know, injustices that are going on right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were reminded when George Floyd had a knee on his neck for 8 minutes 46 seconds. We were reminded when Breonna Taylor was unjustly murdered, and now the officers still aren't charged. We were reminded last week, less than a week ago, when Jacob Blake was walking to his car and was shot 7 times in the back. And we know that police have an incredibly difficult job keeping communities safe. And there are many communities, Black and Latino communities in particular, who have never felt safe. So we have to have systemic reforms. We have
Yeah.
to demand change in police training. We have to demand more investment instead of militarizing the police in our schools and after school programs for our children, in sports programs, in arts programs, in creative programs, in intellectual programs, in job training for adults, job placement for adults, help them to be carpenters, help them to be electricians,
Yes.
plumbers, solve the economic crisis, which I think has a direct correlation to the rising crime rate. We have a rising violent crime rate in the district, and a lot of it is because of the economic turmoil. People can't feed their families. What can they do? All they can do is be on top of each other in communities and have conflict. And where we have a lot of illegal guns, where we have a culture of people not valuing each other's lives because they don't value
Yes.
life, they resort the worst in human behavior, and it's really generational trauma that it causes.
Yeah.
So the divestment in Black and Latino communities has been almost a direct cause and corollary to all of the violence and the unrest that we're starting to see. So, you know, uh, Mahatma Gandhi, the greatest violence is poverty. And for us
Yeah.
to put people into impoverished circumstances, we are causing violent circumstances to occur, both directly and indirectly.
You know, it bothers me when people outside of, you know, the Black and Latino races, you know, will say, well, just pull yourself by the bootstrap. You know, you can get out of this. Anyone can get out of this. And that kind of thinking is just so dangerous to me. Uh, you know, having that mindset thinking that everyone has the same opportunities as you. And, you know, that's a part of why I do the show as well, because, uh, you know, no one has the same background. Everyone has their own story. And it seems, you know, that the main common factor in these communities are, you know, lack of job and, like you said, economic development. And it's hard to break that generational curse when how are you supposed to do that? There's no opportunities around here. You know what I mean? And
Yep,
how do you see something better for yourself when you've never seen that before?
right. And, you know, I profoundly believe in mentoring, but I also believe that
Me too.
of government, it's the role of private enterprise to step up and solve our societal problems
Hmm.
and create the kinds of public-private partnerships that will help solve the issues. That means that we need to adequately fund schools and
Hmm.
all of their programs. Someone like me who was coming home at 8 p.m. because I was playing sports or painting or playing the viola had something to do. The school bell ended every day. But if you don't have that kind of funding and activity available to you, and your
Yeah.
mom's working 2 jobs and she's the only person at home, there's a lot of streets in between school and home, and a
Yeah.
lot of people caught up and lost in it. So that's why adequate funding is so critically important because, you know, in the words of Frederick Douglass, it's a lot easier to fix a child than or sorry, to build up a child than to fix a broken man.
Hmm.
Um, and
That's true. Yeah.
economically, we can see that directly it costs a lot less for us to raise our children right and invest in them the way they should be invested than it is to deal with people who've been failed by society.
I wonder why that's just a concept that doesn't seem to like stick. Like to me, that just makes logical sense. And it's just crazy to me that we have to fight so hard for things like this. Even defunding the police, you know, they can only do so much. And it honestly scares me that I'm pretty sure to become a cop, you have to have a bachelor's degree, correct?
No,
Oh,
not.
oh, well then never mind on that. Because I was gonna say if you had to go through all of that education and then, you know, go through training and then situations like this happen, you know, how many more times can we say it's just a bad apple? You know, it's just a bad apple. How many bad apples are there going to be? And how long are we going to use that excuse?
You know, that's something that people brought up. If we raise the standard of uh, entrance to be an officer, and
Yeah.
frankly, the standards are so low that many people have issues with how easy it is and how little evaluation and screening that happens for people to be able to be officers and have a gun and a badge and really have authority. So I think that that's some of the reform in terms of increased training and more de-escalation training that can
Yeah.
help have people that are public servants more responsive, more respectful, more thoughtful when engaging in their communities.
And more empathetic as well. You know, you're policing these communities that you don't have to be raised in or grew up in or knew anything about, but you just have to understand at the end of the day that they're still people. And I just feel like, you know, people lack that. And a lot of
Yeah,
times in this generation, but I'll say people in general, but the lack of empathy that I've seen, you know, watching the video earlier this week, I don't know if it makes me a coward or just scared, but I never watched the George Floyd video. I couldn't bring myself to watch it because I felt like that's trauma that I'm putting onto myself. Do you know what I
right.
mean? So I can fight for it. I know what happened, but I never watched the video. I never sat down and watched. I couldn't bring myself to it. It's getting me upset even talking about it. And earlier this week, I was like, you know, let me watch the video that came out about the shooter that
Yeah,
shot the two people at the protest that were walking down the street.
yeah, it's crazy.
I I remember I automatically looked at it and I closed my laptop and I just started crying like a baby. And I'm like, this is what's going on. Like, how are, I get why people, I don't condone in it, but why people get to the point where they're like setting things on fire. Like I felt so much rage sitting in my bed at like 1 p.m. looking at this video. Like, I can't believe this is going on right now. How someone can just blatantly walk down the street with a rifle, walk past the cops, and they let him go. Like they just let him walk by and didn't get him, I think, till later that night or the next morning. I'm a little pissed off about this situation. I just can't believe that, you know, this is going on. And I see articles that are saying this kid was looking to become a cop. Like he could have been cleared in like 12 months. He could have been on the streets in like a year.
Right.
How?
Yeah. And, you know, DC has that issue that you referred to earlier, and that's only 21% of our police officers live in the district, and only 17% of our firefighters live in the district. And while we don't have these kinds of incidents with firefighters, they don't have guns,
Right.
training. But
Wow.
officers in the district, by and large, are not, I mean, like a vast majority are not from the communities that they police or even the city that they police, and don't really have the organic or authentic tie to the communities that they're working with. There's really a
Wow.
other treatment and an antagonistic relationship that develops. So that's a problem that
Mm.
on the front. How do we get more workforce housing so that we can have working adults that live in the district be officers in the district? We haven't figured that out yet, and that's something that would greatly improve our public safety.
Hmm. I didn't know those statistics about that. That honestly changes a lot for me. Thinking about this, because it's like, what can we do as a community to want to get, you know, these little black boys that are running around, how do we get them to want to become police officers or get them to the point to where they want to run for office, they want to help their community and not look at their community as something that's perhaps a burden,
Right.
or, you know, maybe something that they'd like to forget about instead of leaving. How do we get them to stay and want to better their community?
Right.
So, wow. So who were some of your inspirations growing up? It could be anyone from a singer to a politician or anyone.
Yeah. I mean, you want me to pick two? You want me to pick?
I'll say pick your top three.
Oh, wow. I feel like that's, you know, I was named after Marcus Garvey. Obviously studied him. Talk about Mary McLeod Bethune, who's a fierce educator. Um, um, Someone like, you know, I mean, frankly, Tupac. I think,
Yeah.
you
I'm more
know,
of a Biggie fan, but I respect that.
I don't see how and remotely a thing. You know, just looking at the volume of work that Pac created,
I
uh,
know.
his poetry, just how brilliant he was as an actor. You know, he was a really talented who probably produced 20 times as much work as Biggie did. He lived roughly the same amount of time. Maybe,
I think the movie Notorious kind of got me skewed because I liked it so much. So.
yeah, you're a little young. You know, if you're a little, I have better appreciation.
Right. Okay. Um, I like that you had said people that I didn't necessarily know, because, you know, when I think about inspirations from growing up, I'm like, maybe like Aaliyah. I didn't really have anyone that I could look at outside of the entertainment world that I really, you know, aspired to want to be like. And I think that's also a narrative that we could change, is be inspired by those in the community, you know, even people like you that are working so hard and tirelessly to better, you know, the circumstances around them. I think that's pretty cool.
I appreciate that. And, you know, I think it's important for us to have like diverse people that
Right.
young people look up to. It can't be a whole generation, everybody looking up to LeBron. You know, like, you know, 10 years ahead of me was everybody was looking up to MJ.
Mm.
I want Robert Smith to kind of fill that void and be someone that people look up to, or Roger Ferguson, you know, be someone who fills that void that young people looking up to. You know, who are the black executives that aren't entertainers? You know,
Right.
that aren't running or hooping or, you know, scoring touchdowns. Like, who are those guys? It's such a short list that it
It
really is a,
is. And you have to do your own research to be able to even find these types of people, because, um,
yeah.
you know, it's not like it's just blatantly information that's given to us, you know?
Yeah, I mean, if we wanted to talk about white titans of enterprise and business and success, I could sit here for hours and tell you Bill Gates did this and Mark Zuckerberg did that and Jeff
Right.
Bezos, Warren Buffett does that, and the list is ridiculously long. But if we're looking at, you know, black men and women that are accomplished in their field that aren't entertainers, ridiculously short list. You
Mm.
know, quick short combo. Um, so you know, I want us to have real diverse icons that people can look up to, because this tens of millions of young white boys that can grow up to want to be Jeff Bezos. But
Yeah.
if, you know, have to think hard, you know, we don't have those people. So
Hmm. I'm gonna make that my mission this week. I'm gonna do some research on some people. Um, so okay, I like this question. You know, what are some actions people in the community can do to better educate themselves on local politics and local community activities?
I would say first and foremost, find out what the government structure is in your
Mhm.
state and try to find out what are the levels of state, city, um, county government, and really know what these people do, what different functions they
Right.
oversee independently, and then ultimately you can understand what's important about each of these elected officials and how you can make your demands, because they're here to work for you the same way the police are supposed to be in your
Yes.
community to work for you. Your elected officials are supposed to be there to work for you, so you have to know what exact power that they have.
I love that. And I see that you're very, very, very involved. And sometimes I wake up and I get on Facebook and I'm like, wow, today I should be like more like Marcus Goodwin.
Well,
You are really out here doing it. And, even driving through the city, I'm sure you just had so many people, so many volunteers that have helped you, because I'm pretty sure there's nowhere you can look in DC without seeing your name. Everywhere. Stickers to, your name in people's lawns. Even driving through the city, seeing that is inspiring, because it's just like, that means that so many people, are backing your ideas and, love what you're putting out there.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Definitely been working 18 hours a day,
Yeah,
start,
we see it.
and I hope I can repost this video somewhere and get more people focus and attention on the platform that you're creating as well, because you're working hard too.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you. I don't know if you saw, but I saw you had joined, but this month is the 6th month that I've been doing the gift of gab. And, sometimes I get hard on myself, because it's like, you should be doing this, doing that. And it's like, it's only been 6 months.
Yeah.
I have like a whole lifetime to do this, to be honest. So don't get discouraged, people. That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
So speaking of your platform, just because I educated myself on your website, would you like to tell the viewers a little bit more about what you stand for and why, they should vote for you come November?
Yeah. I'm focused on ensuring that people who grew up like me in lower or middle wage earning families continue to have the opportunity to stay in DC. That means that we need to create a platform of more equitable investments in our education and our small businesses. Coming out of the pandemic is not going to be easy. So we got to focus on ensuring that there's affordable home ownership opportunities so that especially Black and Latino homeowners can stay in their communities or at least in the city. We need to have more opportunities for us to build affordable housing and not just the market rate, quote unquote, housing that allows rich people 3% increasing every year to come in to rent apartments. We also have to focus on our education. We have a huge education gap, and 93% of white students in our public schools graduate on time, a vast majority of whom go on to college. Only 68% of Black students and 63% of Latino students will graduate on time, and a lower percentage of them will go on to college. So we're getting 50% of our students to the point that we want to get them.
Wow.
I want to focus on the investments that it'll take to have more equitable funding in our schools. We need to get all the administration that rises the cost of running the school down, and we have to ensure that we have more investments in the children because they are what the money should be going toward. I also want vocational education because people who may not necessarily finish high school may be able to earn a great living if they're a plumber, an electrician, a carpenter, an auto mechanic, all of these trades that they're earning $60,000 a year, which is better than the entry level jobs that are paying strictly minimum wage. And then finally, help our small businesses and entrepreneurs. We all know that our bars, our restaurants are suffering terribly from COVID, and we want to all create a platform for them to come back stronger than ever. That's why I want to focus on more grant and loan funding to get them to the point that they're able to rebound and come back to their communities stronger than ever.
I love that. That's everything I stand for. Vote for Marcus. And out of all of those, what would you say is your strongest point? What is I don't want to say number one because they're all very important, but what would you say that you are very, wholeheartedly passionate about?
Yeah, the biggest thing would be affordable housing because I know how to build it,
Yes.
finance it, and in terms of home ownership, how to structure it so that more people can access it. The current program that we have for first-time home buyers is ridiculously just people drop all the time and don't have the opportunity to fully complete the program. So I want us to streamline it, make it easier to use, a quicker process so that people can actually close on homes. Because right now, the opportunity.
Yeah, agreed. And we have a question right here. If elected, what would be your game plan to impact DC being the newest member of the council?
So the three issues that I highlighted, housing, education, and small business, would be the primary focus. In how we would be doubling our commitment to our housing and trust fund. That's how we build most of our affordable units. In education, it would be funding both vocational education programs for many of our high schoolers, but also having the after school programs in the arts, the athletics, the creative pursuits that will help people bridge the time when the school bell goes out to give them productive, gainful activity until they have to go home in the evenings if they don't have a safe space to go after school. And then finally, for our small businesses, it would be expanding our grant and loan programs to ensure that people have an opportunity to continue to operate their business and provide jobs to DC residents.
Great. I hope that answered your question. I just saw some people talking. Oh, someone said they ask more questions picking jury members than they do for officers. I can agree with that as well. So, what are some negatives and positives to having an electoral college?
I don't think positives. I think the reason that they created the electoral college is because the states that had more land but fewer people needed more empowerment. And the way it works is that a state like Vermont or Wyoming that has fewer people than DC get more representation per resident than a state like California. So in terms of their land, it becomes more valuable than the number of people that actually live there. Um, it's an antiquated system, and
Yeah.
you know every advanced democracy in the world except the United States, we straight up just say whoever gets the most votes wins. And we never would have had George Bush had we had a normal system. We never would have had Donald Trump if we had a normal system. So there's a great case for us getting rid of it.
How would they go about getting rid of something like that?
Uh, it would actually take an act of Congress, and obviously, as long as the Republicans are in charge now,
Like,
the Senate and the presidency, it ain't gonna get done.
I'm learning so much. Why should you be elected as opposed to your competitors? And why will you be part of the solution as opposed to a part of the problem?
Yeah, it's a great question. Um, I'm running against 25. There's 25 candidates. I'm running against 24 people. And the two main candidates that I'm running against, one is a career politician. He's been on the council, off the council, on the council, off the council, winning and losing. The other guy is a career lobbyist. He's been paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year by different advocacy groups that are national to lobby the DC Council. So these guys are so politically entrenched. All they do is put over people. I'm someone who puts people over politics. I have a sensible plan. I'm not entrenched, and I'm going to be someone who's going to be a bold, transformational leader in a way that they could not possibly be. So that's what makes me different. That's why I'll be better delivering results. I'm also a lot more energetic. I'm a lot younger,
Yeah.
more dynamic, and I would say savvy about the things that I know better than anyone else.
I think age plays a major role in this because, I wanted to make it so important to know why to vote locally, but I feel like a lot of people will just write it off because it's like, oh, it's just a bunch of old people. I don't know who these people are. And I think it's so cool that you're so young. What is that plan? Can you elaborate, Brandon, if you asked that question? But yeah, I think age has a major part to do with it. I've had, I don't know if I'm from Frederick County. So coming here, I felt like a lot of times I was straddling the line because I'm very focused on what's going on in Frederick. I'm very involved there. But then I'm feeling this pull towards DC because I do live in College Park, so I'm right here on the line. But I think it's important that I know, what's going on both sides since I work both in Maryland and in DC, and I deal with I don't know, different types of things working in, both the city and in Maryland. So I think it's good that you need to educate yourself where you're living now and surrounding areas as well, and how it can affect you.
Right.
So how do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process of the city if you get elected?
One thing that people do because, you can't always live in a 706,000 with the same, just create different constituency groups. So I would like to create different councils once a week or once a month. And that'll be people that know the most about healthcare, people that know the most about insurance, people that know the most about bars and restaurants, people that know
Mm.
the real estate, and different councils that advise me on matters that are important to them, that are consistently coming up, that I can lean on them for their support and guidance on ensuring that these issues are improved. So that would be the best way to do it.
I think that's a very smart idea. Are you the type of person that would like doing like town halls? Like if, if someone, I'm just trying to understand the process of, or the
Yep.
breakdown of what your position would be. So, if you gathered a town hall and had people come in, residents come in, community members, and they, had a lot of issues, but it seemed as though a common one kept coming up. Is that another way that you would kind of be able to see what's going on or what's going on in that area?
Yeah, absolutely. I think having town halls, but also leaning on like all of these different groups that are advisory
Right.
groups, doing the legwork of putting on these kinds of programs, so that the onus or the effort isn't falling on my shoulders on a consistent basis. If someone wants to talk about education, I need teachers
Yeah.
and teachers and people that are administrators in schools and
Hmm.
parents to be part of that group, and they need to put on the town hall, and they need to bring their different groups and constituents.
Okay.
They need to bring me to that conversation so I can help solve some of those issues.
Okay. Definitely understood. Okay, so Brandon elaborated. Our city is gentrifying fast. How can you help ensure that the Black middle class is not priced out of the district?
Yeah, I
I
talked
wonder
with
that too.
our first time homebuyer program is it helps uh, Black residents less than it helps white residents. The proportion of residents, a majority of the people getting aid from the program are white. So we need to
Oh,
have race conscious investment programs to allow people to access housing in a way that they have not been before, because there has been so much discrimination in our programs, not just because of the underwriting standards and the credit scores required, but
right.
also because we just lack the information that other people have about how to
Mm.
get programs. So that's something I want to step up and ensure is changed going forward.
I
Um,
think that's important.
Home ownership is key to building equity and controlling your cost of living in the city.
I don't know what these people are talking about in the comments. Um, so I wanted to also ask you about, what's going on with voting this year? How are we voting? What's happening? As someone who doesn't watch the news every day, I don't wake up to the news, to be honest. If it's important enough, I'll turn it on. But if not, I usually find my stuff from Facebook or social media. And I think that's okay. I think that's pretty modern. But I'm not necessarily following, the exact way that you're supposed to vote this year. So if you have, some information on that.
Yep. So in DC, and actually in many states, we're going to do for the first time ever 100% mail-in ballots for voters.
Okay.
If you're registered in DC, you're going to get a ballot mailed to you, so you don't have to show up at the polls. Um,
Okay.
that's critically important
And you
because
don't have to request it?
you don't have to request it. It's automatically going to go to every voter in the city. So I think
Okay.
that that's important to helping people access voting in a way that they never could before, because you usually would have to request an absentee ballot, get it mailed to your house, mail it in. But now everyone's going to get it mailed to their house automatically. You can fill
Mm.
it right back.
So is that only happening in DC? Do you have any knowledge of what's going on in Maryland pertaining to voting?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I just
think
wanted to know. I'm not sure.
I think it's county by county.
Yeah, I think that's what my sister had said about Governor Hogan. I think he's leaving it up to like specific counties and what they want to do. Because I know some places are still letting you go in and vote. You don't have to mail yours in.
Yeah, in DC it's the same. You can go in person, but why would you when you can just, mail it back? I mean, it's easy, it's free.
Well, maybe some people are worried about, I mean, what's kind of going on right now. You know, isn't he removing the postal service boxes everywhere? I don't know. I'm like kind of a conspiracy theorist, so it's like
Yeah.
I know the mail system's like trusted, but it's like, can you really trust it? Can you?
Well, the other thing they're going to have around DC is drop boxes. So these are going to be boxes that district government gets a company to have these secure boxes that you can drop your ballot in, and it'll go straight to the Board of Elections.
Okay, so I kind of like that idea a little bit better.
Yeah.
It sounds like, you know, you can trust it. Um, so, okay. On a lighter note, I see on Facebook, you know, you like to post a lot about different places you go to. So, what are some of your favorite places to go to and spend time at? Whether it's eating, shopping, lounging, maybe gaining some knowledge. You know, where are some places you like to hang out? I guess pre-COVID, maybe.
I left DC since November. That's how crazy my life has been.
Wow. Have you stepped foot in Maryland?
Oh yeah, I mean like Maryland,
I'm
Virginia,
kidding.
literally have not left the DMV since then. So it's been crazy. You know, I would say,
So, okay, so in DC, what are some of your favorite spots that you like to go to?
uh, you know, I really like to run on the Anacostia River. The river park
Yes.
from Navy Yard back over is like a good 3.5 mile loop. That's really good. You know, I would say I really like going to um, Eastern Market on a Sunday.
Yeah,
Uh, you know, DuPont on a Sunday.
that
Um,
sounds nice.
yeah, oh, I do like the wharf. You know, I'm
Same.
happy. You know, I wish there was more affordable housing there, but I do think that it allows us to access the water in a way we never have,
Right.
uh, other than the Georgetown waterfront. It's kind of like a 2.0.
Hmm.
Um, Rock Creek Park is incredible. I mean, you
I
can.
was waiting for you to say that. That's one of my favorite places in DC. It's just it's so vast. Like I feel like every time I turn a corner, it says Rock Creek Park, some part of it, and I'm like, how many parts of Rock Creek, you know, are there?
Yeah, no, I mean, Rock Creek is a special we have in DC. The Langston Golf Course is cool.
Oh, cool. Okay.
That's
All right.
DC.
So what about some food? I know you like to eat.
What are we talking? Breakfast, lunch, dinner? Like,
Whatever you
dessert?
want. Shoot. No. Let's say lunch.
Uh, uh, okay, I gotta think. Lunch is tough.
It
Uh,
is tough. That's why I wanted you to do even dinner. I mean, just kind of a spot, you know, where even if you Uber Eats or Grubhub it, you know, it's like this is
the
like where you go to.
the Highlands on 14th Street, like Crittenden, incredible food, good people, local DC owned. I
That's what I
probably
like to hear.
eaten there 60 times since COVID kicked off. Crazy.
Um, have you heard of a restaurant called JoJo's?
No, where's that?
It's right at the end of U Street. They play jazz, live jazz. It's black owned. It's like swanky, you know, low key. Um, I wasn't sure if you had. I had dinner there on Friday and it was superb. If
Okay.
anyone wants good food, go to JoJo's.
Thanks.
Um, and let's see, what else do I have for you? You know, I kind of just want to use the rest of the time for you to say anything that you would like for people, you know, if you haven't said anything about it or if you want to expound on it again. Just to wrap it up, you know, kind of what you stand for and what you can do for the community come November and, you know, what they should look forward to.
Yes, I will say um, I'm happy for anyone who's tuned in or come on or off or who sees this recorded. The moment we're in right now in America, in the world, is historic. We're all going to be looking back thinking, what did we do? Where were we? How were we a part or not a part of the movement? So I think that it's incumbent on all of us to step up when there's an opportunity to speak to the injustice in your community and to take advantage of knowing all of the political ins and outs of how to navigate making life better for you, your family, and the people around you. So I'm happy that I've been a part of these protests, these marches, help organize some, and encourage as many friends as possible to be a part of the movement, because we're all going to look back on this and it's going to be just historic. And we're going to be the ancestors that we once look up to and continue to look up to for inspiration and thought leadership. So get involved, no matter
Yeah.
who you're a part of the movement, or you can be forgettable. And right now, if you want to be memorable, you have to step up and you have to speak to the injustices all around you, all around all of us, and make it better for future oncoming generations so that they don't have as steep a hill to climb as we have. So I hope you get your auntie, your cousins, your friends, your community
Yeah.
registered and know who to vote for November 3rd and up till then, because we're not going to get rid of the Electoral College. We're not going to get DC statehood. We're not going to get fair and just policing until we get the orange guy out the White House and all the way down the ballot. So I hope people are locked in and engaged and know what's going on around them. So thank you for this time, Gabby.
Yes. And I actually have one more question. It was on
Okay.
my mind. It just kind of slipped. Um, it seems like every time it's time to vote, people say, oh, I don't want to vote. I don't want to have to pick between the lesser of two evils.
Hmm.
How dangerous of a mindset do you think that that is, and how that can affect this election coming up?
You know, when you hear that said, especially in the national context, you know, people talk about the Democrat being the lesser of two evils with the Republican, and
Mm-hmm.
that kind of really helps the Republican. We all know who has the bigger flaws and who has the lower ceiling. You just want to have someone in that position. You're not going to blow the U.S. government and get rid of the presidency. You have to pick the person who's best suited to do the job, and that's going to have your interests at heart when they step into work every day. So you got to pick some. You can't just go without a president. So you might as well be a part of the solution. And remember, in Florida, George Bush only won by 57 votes. Okay,
Wow.
so every
Wow. So that means get out, please vote. If you are not registered, please go online and register. If you are in DC, like you said, they will mail you your ballot so you don't have to request it. I just don't want to hear any excuses on, people being online, being able to talk about this stuff, but not putting action behind their
sorry,
words. So
not
please.
537.
Oh, wow. That's still, an amount where people could have gone out to vote. So
We would have had John Kerry as president. Or sorry, we would have had Al Gore. Al Gore.
it's okay. It's been a long day. It's been a long weekend. But yes, everyone, please get out and vote. And if you are in DC, please vote for Marcus Goodwin. Thank you so much for being on here. I appreciate it. And if you wanted to say your website really quick so they can go visit and learn more.
Yeah, it's the same as my social media at Goodwin for DC. GOODWINFORDC.com.
Thank you guys so much for tuning into the Gift of Gab. I'll see you next time.
Thanks,
Bye.
Gabe.